In June 1944, the Allies landed at Normandy. In our world, they succeeded. But here, the weather turned against them. The beaches became killing grounds. German panzers, fueled by reserves hidden deep in the Reich, smashed the Allied foothold. By autumn, Eisenhower's forces were driven back across the Channel. On the Eastern Front, the Soviets had pushed as far as Warsaw, but the German counteroffensive, reinforced with jet aircraft and new rocket artillery, halted their momentum. By early 1945, the Wehrmacht encircled Moscow once more. Stalin refused evacuation. His bunker was overrun. The Soviets fractured without him. The United States considered intervention, but Germany detonated its first atomic bomb in 1945 near Kursk, a demonstration for both enemies and allies. Truman's advisors urged caution. America had its own bomb, but unleashing it on Europe would mean mutual annihilation, and so one by one the Allies fell. London surrendered in 1947. Canada and Australia isolated, looked to Washington for protection. America turned inward, its navy patrolling the Atlantic but never daring to cross. The world belonged to the Reich. Europe was reshaped into the new order. France became Reichsland Gallia. The Eiffel Tower bore a swastika banner. German was compulsory in schools. Britain was reduced to a protectorate. Buckingham Palace housed the Reichskommissar. Churchill's voice, once thunderous, now whispered from exile on secret American radio. Eastern Europe ceased to exist as nations. Poland was erased, its cities Germanized. Ukraine became farmland for German settlers. Millions of Slavs vanished into forced labor camps. For Aryan Germans, life was orderly, even prosperous. Volkswagen cars filled the autobahns. Cheap housing blocks promised comfort, and radios broadcast endless parades. To the average German child, the Reich was eternal, unstoppable, but beneath the surface, fear ruled. Neighbors informed on neighbors. A careless joke could mean the Gestapo's knock at midnight. Whole families vanished, never to return. In the United States, the mood was grim. Presidents from Truman to Eisenhower to Kennedy maintained a fragile balance. Publicly, they condemned fascism. Privately, they signed truces, unwilling to risk nuclear war. Still, American culture leaked across the ocean. Jazz records, Hollywood films, forbidden novels, smugglers carried them into Europe. They became secret treasures for the young who had grown up knowing nothing but Nazi propaganda. In 1961, the Reich shocked the world. Its rocket program, led by Wernher von Braun, placed the first man on the moon. The swastika flag was planted in lunar dust. Berlin broadcast the achievement as proof of destiny. Himmler, ruling after Hitler's death, dreamed of turning space into the next frontier of empire. But while the Reich reached for the stars, unrest grew at home. In Paris, secret cafes served as meeting grounds for the resistance. Young men and women read banned poetry, listened to American jazz, and painted graffiti in the night. La France vivra, France will live. In Warsaw, hidden radios transmitted messages, do not forget who you are. Even in Berlin, university students questioned the endless ceremonies. They passed around American pamphlets and Soviet leaflets, remnants of ideologies crushed but not erased. The CIA funneled weapons into Europe. Smugglers ferried supplies through neutral Spain and Sweden. American submarines dropped crates of radios on French shores. Washington called it psychological containment, but the Reich answered with terror. Entire villages suspected of harboring resistance were burned. Leaders were executed publicly. Still, the underground lived. The Reich's African empire, once seen as a jewel, became a bleeding wound. Guerrilla movements armed with American weapons waged endless wars. Angola, the Congo, and Nigeria erupted in rebellion. German divisions bogged down in jungles and deserts, fighting an enemy they could never crush. In 1983, a strike in Krakow turned violent when workers demanded bread and freedom. The Reich's troops fired into the crowd, killing hundreds, but the footage, smuggled out by resistance cameramen, reached America and was broadcast worldwide. For the first time, ordinary Germans saw their empire not as glorious, but as fragile. A new generation in Germany grew restless. They had grown up amid propaganda, but their curiosity outpaced fear. Smuggled American music, rock, blues, jazz, spread like wildfire. Secret concerts hidden in basements became acts of defiance. By the late 1980s, slogans appeared on walls, even in Berlin. Das Reich ist nicht ewig. The Reich is not eternal. It began slowly, then all at once. In 1991, Paris exploded in revolt. Crowds tore down swastika banners. German soldiers fired into the masses, but the city would not bend. The uprising spread to Lyon, Marseille, and across Europe. In Warsaw, resistance fighters rose openly for the first time in 50 years. In Kiev, guerrillas stormed government buildings. Even in Berlin, students filled the streets, demanding an end to Himmler's successors. The Reich unleashed its fury. Tanks rolled through cities, helicopters filled the skies, but the old fear was gone. America seized the moment. For the first time in half a century, US forces landed in Europe, not as conquerors, but as allies. NATO was reborn in rebellion. By 1999, the Reich collapsed. Himmler's statues were torn down. Swastikas were burned in every capital. The once mighty empire crumbled from within, not by invasion, but by the will of its own people. The world woke to ruins. Europe had lost 2 generations to fascism. Languages suppressed for decades, Polish, Ukrainian, French, even English, had to be reborn. Museums were filled not with treasures, but with stolen histories returning to their people. Africa bore the deepest scars. Decades of exploitation left nations broken, their resources drained, their people scarred by endless wars. Rebuilding would take centuries, and yet, freedom returned. Democracies were rebuilt. Young people filled the streets with music, art, and celebration. The internet connected voices once silenced. A saying spread through the ruins of Berlin. The Reich lasted 60 years. Freedom will last forever. Looking back, the victory of Nazi Germany proved hollow. Empires built on fear cannot endure. For a time, the Reich seemed invincible, but the human spirit, resilient, rebellious, unbreakable, rose again. History could have been darker, but even in that darkness, hope found a way to burn.